Hey guys, Lone Wolf here from Tenacious, doing a quick video on Berserkers and Berserkers skills. Mainly I want to talk about non-chain skills. If you don't want to watch the entire video or any of the explanations, feel free to just take a look at what I use. It's going to be dodge, move, middle, enrage warrior, either top for offensive or bottom for defensive. Fighting spirit, you're going to use the middle. And then forestall the top. But I'm going to make a second video where we go over actual chain skills, but I really just wanted to touch on non-chain skills to start off, and I'll even go into some ability, just so that we could kind of, this was something that we talked about with a few other Zerkers at the Circle Zerk last night, and it was pretty universal of what we should be using, and this is mainly for, I would say, PvP in mind, but I don't see why you wouldn't. You may want to switch out one or two things for PvE, but it's really just going to be what you're going to be speccing into. So I did just want to go over a few of the issues that we have with our chain skills. Specifically is the name of it. It's a non-chain skill. The reason why I don't want to go into stance skills right now is, first off, still need to get to level 45 to test out a few things, but realistically, it's the fact that the game is designed to chain your skills. So you want to be doing one combo, stance switch into your next combo. The buffs that our non-chain skills give us are really only 3 seconds long, and they break your chain. So that means when you're even trying to get a buff, say you had a buff on a skill right there, you would only be getting it for maybe the first attack. You will definitely get it for the first attack, maybe the second. So you would get your damage boost on your second chain attack, as opposed to being able to use that buff at a different time and try to use it towards the end. If it was different, and say you were able to use your chain skills to get a 10% additional attack power on, say, your 6th or 7th chain skill, then we'd be talking about a different story, but that's a lot of the logic behind all of this. But first thing, fighting like Kilkenny Cats, absolutely trash. It's not really incredibly trash, but it's pretty trash. It's a 3-second buff, and the main point of when this buff becomes most useful is when you're below 10% HP. That means you need to be below 10% HP, activate it, and then any of these effects over here, you'll only have 3 seconds active. So trust me when I say almost impossible to use. It's pretty bad. Keep in mind, all of these stances, all of these skills, we have spec'd into. We use those 3 things, the 3 resets that we were given, and so when I do say I've tested every one of these, we've tested every one of these to see if any of these were useful. Game changer. This is mainly when you have increased players around you. Let's just take a look. Increases combat power. You'll maybe be able to get a. It's very situational because you're getting 2% per enemy, so that means for it to be to the maximum amount, which would be 15, you would need 15 enemies around you to get the 30% damage buff. I don't know if this will be useful in, say, siege scenarios. So that's something that we'll take a look at in those scenarios, but this is going to be mainly your 1v1s, 5v5s, your small scale things. If Game Changer does become, more important towards Siege, we could certainly take a look at that. Now, I'm just going to go into the other ones that we don't use. Fighter's Will. Increases Berserker's fighting power by 10% for 5 seconds. Decreases all defense by 10%. So, went into this. 5 seconds, once again, can't hit your 3rd chain skill for the most part, consistently, in that 5-second buff. And you're also reducing your defense by 10%. So it's not like you're really gaining too much. We tried the bleed effect. Either the bleed effect is broken. It certainly does not apply a bleed debuff. And it certainly does not tick down damage. It's possible that it may cause an additional damage effect on your last attack. But it was unable to even be able to notice any type of difference. From what it seems, that bleed effect may be broken on this skill, so just keep that in mind. Murderous Intent. Once again, this is going to suffer from the same situation that the other skills suffer from. You apply a mark all enemies within 5 meters, and you can basically shred their defense by 20 seconds. Now, in group play, that may be okay. That may be fine, because you can just use that when you see a teammate chaining their skills. But to buff your own damage, you're not going to be able to get that off, just because once again you're talking about I believe it's a 3 to 5 second buff once again, and you're not going to be able to use that buff for your chains. And if you see a trend in this, because there is, and a lot of classes suffer for this, we're not the only class that has it. I know Archer specifically, a lot of their attack power buffs are 1 second buffs, so clearly the testing of these skills did not apply. So if they were to buff these skills, we could look at them again, but anything in my opinion under a 10-second buff for any of these skills, I just don't think that it would be worth it. So getting into just a few of the standards, Fighting Spirit, you're going to kind of couple with First Stall. Fighting Spirit's going to just give you that anger boost to start off a fight. We've tried the attack power by 10% for 3 seconds. If you want to use it, feel free. Once again, it's going to have almost no effect to your DPS because it's a 3-second buff. So that being said, the additional anger just seems like the right play to go. For Stall, this is going to be a skill that, unfortunately, the range on it, not that great. It's a 6-meter range, so to put that in perspective, you're talking about right around here. Nope, still out of range. So right about here is your range. So don't think of this as a gap closer. It's going to be more of just an additional CC, or just how to get people's to try to keep them in if they're trying to escape, or if you've already engaged with your anger or any of that. But once again, a very good skill because of this aspect of it. Additionally, it's the down attack for, I believe, 2.5 seconds. I'm sorry, I think it's for 1 second. Additionally, for half a second. It's half a second initially. Then you spec in an extra 2.5 seconds, and then you can keep specking in for additional downtime. So eventually, that's going to be, I believe, 4 seconds. 4 seconds of downtime. It doesn't feel like 4 seconds of downtime, but once again, certainly, the more you can spec into this and actually get that extra damage in there, Force Stall is, it seems like that's kind of like going to be one of your bread and butters. You're going to Fighting Spirit anytime right before your Force Stall. The next skill, your Dodge Move. And Dodge Move, I'm just going to preface this. I have this on my 7 key, and I have it set to Shift. Dodge Move used to be absolutely garbage until they recently buffed it. Dodge Move is great because it stores 5 charges. And every one of these dodge moves, just think of it like Dark Souls. That's an iframe right there. You're immune to damage when you're rolling. So you now have a bunch of immunity that you can play into fights. Really, really important that they buff this. Now, I'm just going to take a look at a few of these skills. You have the attack power increase by 30%. Once again, that's either a 3 or a 5 second attack power increase. So you're only getting that in your first or second attack of a chain move, which is, once again, not going to be too strong. Especially if the way they're reworking everything. The other one that we have been using is you can spec it into getting 15% health recovery. So that means every time you dodge roll, you gain 15% of your max health. And with 5 charges, that's 75% of your health. So in any fight, that seems to be just the way to go. Very, very strong. That buff made that skill go from trash tier to Absolutely mandatory on every Beserker. You're going to be using that consistently, constantly throughout every single fight. So make sure you have that on a key that you could constantly spam. Once again, I suggest putting that to shift. But, you know, that's up to you. And just while I'm thinking about it, other things that I've changed keybinds to. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That works fine for me. My light attack is Q. My middle attack, my medium attack is E. And my heavy attack is R. That seems to just kind of shift the play a little bit closer to where I feel a little bit more comfortable with. Your class stance change is very, very important. So if you don't like pressing tilde, I do suggest, you know, if you come from BDO, C seems to be natural because that's your switch from Awakenings. Otherwise, even feel free to use your left or right mouse button. I know a few people have been using right mouse button for to switch stances, and that seems to be pretty strong. Now, last skill, Enraged Warrior. One problem with Enraged Warrior is it is a parry buff, so you will be getting, I believe, 30% parry chance every time you have this activated. Now, the problem with parry is it does absolutely nothing to defend you against magic dealing classes, which seems to be a massive weakness of ours, and just, you know, the game in general. So certainly, it is good, but we're mainly doing it for the other effects, and that's for the attack power increase or the health regen. Both are very good, mainly because you're 15% damage, unlike the other skills, actually stay up, and you can actually gain combos off of it because it's more than a 5-second buff. So feel free, and you can keep that up almost always. So in between combos or anything like that, it's already off of cooldown, especially if you reduce its cooldown. This is one of the few skills that has that ability. At max level, you will have it 100% off cooldown. So certainly one of those skills to use. Now, the other way you can spec it is to get 2% health increase per second if you want to be a little bit more defensive. But that's just going to be a playstyle choice, whether you like that extra HP regen or you like that 15% additional attack power. Now, the middle move, the middle route looked really good to me, and it was resist to crowd control effects. That's a lie. It's not a resist to crowd control effects. It's a resist to certain crowd control effects. And even if it is a resist to certain crowd control effects, it may not even be a 100% resist to certain crowd control effects. It certainly has nothing to do with a knockdown or knock-up. That's for sure. We believe that it may only reduce the effect of rooting, but once again, we haven't really seen that being done on a consistent basis. So be very, very skeptical of using that. And the consistency that you get from the other two is just too strong to ignore. Now, for abilities, I just want to go into this. You cannot go wrong with getting the first 3 in every tree. And it's just a lot of stat that you're going to be getting for a relatively low cost. Then from here, you know, just take a look at what you're looking for. I like the increased attack power. I know a few people, you know, we're heading towards more acceleration, strength. You know, you have other choices here, but the first 3, if you don't want to make any bad decisions, I would suggest just going in and getting those extra stats, especially early on. Don't wait to do this. You know, this will make your life a lot easier if you spec into those first 3. And then from there, you know, take a look at what you think, what stats seem very strong for you. Stance skills, I'm going to make a separate video because they're reworking a lot of stances and I still need the levels. But I just wanted to make a quick video because we did talk a lot the other night about non-chain skills. And we did practice and, you know, test all these skills to see which was the strongest and which ones were going to be the most viable. So, stance chain skills, I'm going to make another video, especially after they rework comboing, and we could see which skills we can actually get consistent, you know, 7+ chain combos, because that seems like where they want the damage to be coming from. Right now, Beserker is kind of in a bad spot, and mainly it's because when we're talking about chaining skills, it's pretty it's pretty difficult to get consistent 6 and 7s in PvP scenarios, especially if you ever miss. Also, because anytime we attack, if we move between combos, it also breaks our chain. So we need to keep someone CC'd the entire time, and it just doesn't seem like our kit really has the ability to do that at the moment. But once they do fix, or once they do change a bit of the chaining and the difference in cooldowns, we'll take a look at the stance changes and just see what would be most viable. But appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, and if you do have any questions or you have any advice for me, feel free to check me out on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/tglonewolf, and that's LOAN Wolf. So if you guys do have any questions or you just want to stop in, show some love, fully appreciate it. Thanks again, guys, and I am signing off.